Hello and welcome to my Dungeon23 video, or more accurately, the first of 365 Dungeon23 videos. Um, if you don't know what Dungeon23 is, um, in Dungeons and Dragons, uh, more so in the Dungeons and Dragons community, there are people who want to they're not entirely satisfied with the way the game is now. So they go back and look for old manuals, old articles, old content for Dungeons and Dragons, and then make new content inspired by it, as opposed to making new content directly for the new content that's been released by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. Um, these people are the whole thing, the whole movement is called OSR, or the old school renaissance, where, trying to bring back the feel of old games. And one of the bigger aspects of the old games was the mega dungeon. Instead of having a narratively driven campaign, one where there is a big bad evil guy who is doing machinations and the party has to go solve it, it is more naturalistic, and it's basically saying, hey, here's this giant dungeon. It's massive, it's insanely large, and you could go in and get treasure, and it's yours to explore, but, it's a massive dungeon. You're going to have your entire adventuring campaign within it. And mega dungeons have kind of become had a resurgence, and they're going to experience a greater resurgence because of Dungeon23. The challenge of Dungeon23 is that for the year of 2023, dungeon masters like myself will make a room for a dungeon every day. Every day there's going to be a new room to your dungeon added. At the end of every month, you go down a level, and by the end of the year, you will have 365 rooms spread out across 12 different levels. I was really interested in the challenge because of two main reasons. One, because I like Dungeons and Dragons, obviously. The second thing is that it'd be really good for YouTube. I think it'd be really good for YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly modify the rules for the challenge, for me at least. Instead of me just spending 2 minutes coming up with a dungeon and then putting it in my back pocket, and then at the end of the year I have this thing. What I'm going to do is every day I'm going to upload a video of me making the room. The videos aren't necessarily going to be long, maybe 5 minutes at most, maybe a bit longer if there's more, if I have idea for a more complex trap or puzzle. But mainly they're going to be very short videos, hopefully not shorts, because I really do not like that feature of YouTube. And I'll upload a video every day. Now, I'm not going to be making a dungeon every day, or a room every day. Some days I'll make 2 or 3, because, one, creatively it works better. It's very hard to make only one thing in a day. To make only one of something in a day. If you write, you can't write only one paragraph. You could try to go for writing at least a paragraph, but you can't limit yourself, because then you'll eventually have an idea that you want to write, but you can't because of the self-imposed limits. More so, the reason for me in this is that I may not have the time to make a video every day. The example is this will be uploaded on January 1st. It will not be filmed on January 1st, or recorded rather, not filmed. It's actually the 31st of December, but I'm going to be uploading it on the 1st, and then on the 1st I'll make one for the 2nd, and then, you know, continue on that path. If for whatever reason I can't make something, I'll have, you know, days stockpiled. The challenge for me specifically isn't that to make the whole dungeon. Well, that's part of it. I don't think that's going to be much of a challenge for me. The real challenge would be uploading consistent YouTube videos, because I really like doing YouTube, and I stopped doing it for a while, and I never had consistent video uploads. Even when I had my podcast, it was supposed to be every Thursday or Friday, but then it quickly became every other one, and then once in a blue moon, and then it just stopped. But we're trying to get that back together. Anyway, enough of that rambling. What is our mega dungeon going to be? So our dungeon is going to be called the Oblette of Obnulation. What does that mean? Well, an oblette, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It's a French word, and French do not deserve to have their words respected. Is specifically a dungeon where there's only one entrance. I believe in, like, the core word is that it's like a bottle. It means bottle or something like a bottle. So this dungeon is only going to have one entrance. You go in through the top and you descend down into it, and it kind of spirals out and then comes back up, and that's my main idea. Obnulation, it either means something that is confusing or something that is explained poorly. Slight technical difficulties. Obnulation either means something that is confusing or something that is purposely confusing or poorly explained. I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate or not, but that also kind of fits into the theme of the dungeon I'm going for. So let us launch game. Okay. What we have here is a 50 by 50 grid. This will hopefully be enough space. I do like having my rooms pretty big on account of the fact I like having players move around and be mobile. So, like all great beginnings, we start humbly. Let's make just a basic... let's see here. Just delete this guy. So, as an oblate, as a whole dungeon, bottle dungeon, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a simple entrance. Draw shape. I'm gonna copy and paste this guy real quick. Alright. Want to be somewhat center because we're going to be spiraling out, or not spiraling out necessarily, but expanding outwards. The room, that's the exact opposite of what I want to do. this shall be our starting room. In case you can't tell, I like to have my things all nice and organized. We are going to mark this guy as being just a little entrance here. So this is where we end up. Very, very simple for starters. Now, while one could just make a box and call it a day, I want to put something interesting in here. So, let's just quickly go over to geometry layer. I have a name for a wizard, as many people do. And my idea is that this dungeon was created by a crazy wizard. And I think I'm spelling that right. Let me just double check, because I have this. I've heard this name somewhere, probably in like Adventure Time or something. But Razimafu. And my idea is that this wizard basically made this giant getting the fucking okay, it wants to be center. This made this giant he made this giant mega dungeon to hold all of his magical trinkets and doodads and spell books and potions and monsters he's collected or created, and he's basically, you know, buried this giant thing, and left basically the top open as basically a picture plant. Adventurers are gonna go in and just statistically they're gonna bring in slightly more crap than they take out. At least that's the working idea. Absolutely nothing is set in stone, but my idea is specifically for this dungeon, the gimmick is that whenever you say the wizard's name, you are teleported back to the entrance. And that has you know, saying it out loud, it may You know, my idea was that when you said his name, it teleports you to the front, the entrance. But I feel like that could be exploited and lower levels. No, I think it'll balance out because you have to march all the way back anyway. So we're gonna keep that for now. The main centerpiece of this room will be a statue of this wizard. With an engraving that will basically say, this structure was created by the wizard Razumafu. And that any treasure you find is totally yours, no strings attached. There's absolutely no consequences for taking things out of this dungeon. So, two things I want to denote down here for the very first thing. Because other than the fact that there are 4 doors, which we might do, I'm going to do something very funny with that. Layer, object token. I can mesh all this stuff to the background eventually. Draw shape. Let me find a nice brown color. Here we are. Let's make that a bit extra large. And this one will be stone. And we'll say this one's magical. So these two are wooden doors. This one shall be like a stone or metal door, something if it's heavily reinforced and hard to open and apparently locked. And this one's a magical door. Actually, let's make some notes here. I've been using Roll20 for about 3.5 years now, and I still am not familiar with the layout of anything. Unlocked wooden door. Select this guy. Layer. Gonna send it to the GM layer. If you don't know how Roll20 works, there's basically 3 different layers. There is the basically player layer, not player layer, the basically typical standard objects layer, where players have their tokens, you have minis, you have all your little effects on there. There is the map layer, which is basically things that you don't want to be able to be dragged or moved around. And then you have the GM layer, which are things that you could move around, but the players cannot see. It's good for notes, or if you want to have your minis laid out before the players encounter them, so that way you don't have to scramble through your library to go find your little doodles to put down because you don't want to go buy minis or mini pictures or go search through catalogs of stock art. This one's going to be text locked wooden door. magical door. And then this guy will be... I'm being kind of vague because even though it's only to make one room per day, I'm gonna get most of the room done. But as I connect rooms to other rooms, I'm gonna always come back and modify them and adjust them. Because you can't just make one thing and then be done with it. You'll never be satisfied. Wait, so we got our locked wooden door. Layer, GM layer. Got our magically sealed door. I'm gonna send GM layer. GM layer. I don't really have any intentions of running. Oh, that's gonna drive me crazy. One thing being slightly out of place. Oh. Alright, and then we're gonna send everything that's not here to the map layer. Alright, so this way you can't accidentally draw it and it'll be all fine. So we have four basically directions to go for the players. We have a well-lit room with a statue of the guy who did it that has a placard, which I'm not actually sure if I want it to be like a trick. Maybe something along the lines of, welcome to the Dungeon of Razumafu. A place where the speaking of his name is forbidden. Or something like that. Just so it's like, oh, we're not supposed to say it. And if someone just says it because they don't take it seriously, then they're bamped back. Or maybe they never realize it. And then that's just a fun thing they never got to do. Or we could have NPCs in the dungeon who know about this and regularly exploit it. That'd be fun. Alright. I have to edit this video together because my recording broke. But it's a room. It has some things in it. We've technically hit the requirements for the day one of the challenge. So this has been Chip. Thank you for watching this short little video. Expect another one out tomorrow. And I apologize for the bad quality in advance, because it's not going to get better.